Hey guys, this is going to be your reading video for the week of January 18th. Because we're out of school on January 18th, you won't have to do any work this day. So you can begin on January 19th. Remember to observe our holiday of Martin Luther King Day on January 18th. Our story this week begins on page 12 in your reading booklet. If you will turn to the story, it's called Two Famous Inventors. Remember that last week we talked about drawing inferences, and we read the story A Woman with a Vision. Remember that when we draw inferences, we are using information that the author gives us to figure out details or ideas that the author does not directly tell you. So when we read a story, the author may not come out and just tell us everything. Sometimes we have to use the pictures or the title or the subtitle to make inferences about what's happening in the story. So we're using details from the story, we're using our own information that we already know to make a decision about what's happening or maybe about what a character might do next. In the previous lesson, we drew inferences with a woman with a vision. Today, we're going to be drawing inferences from this text, Two Famous Inventors. When I look at this text, I can already tell this is probably going to be a nonfiction story. Remember that nonfiction is a story that gives true facts and information. When I look at the pictures, I can tell that the pictures are of real people and real things. And I know that the title, Two Famous Inventors, gives me information that I'm going to be reading about someone that is true in history. So this is a nonfiction story. I'm going to read aloud the first paragraph. And as I read, I want you to be thinking about how the inventor works as he solves a problem. Are you ready? An inventor is someone who creates something new. An inventor also finds new ways to do things. An inventor works to solve problems. If you remember in last week's story, we talked about where ideas for inventions come from. And we said that sometimes an inventor will be most of the time, an inventor will be very observant. That means they use their eyes and their ears. They are watching and they're listening to what's happening around them. And they're noticing problems that people might have. In the last story, A Woman with a Vision, we noticed that the lady rode the train. And as she rode the train, she watched the people. And she watched them stop their cars, get out of their cars, and wipe off their windshields over and over again. And she noticed there was a problem. So, in order to be a good engineer or a good inventor, you have to notice things around you. You have to be very observant. So, when we think about that idea, where do ideas for inventions come from? Most of the time, they come from a problem. So this sentence tells me inventors work to solve problems. They look at the situation, they look at the world, the things around them, and they decide what we need, or they decide how they could make things better. And they start beginning to come up with different ideas and different things they could make. Let's keep reading. Thomas Edison and George Washington Carver were two famous inventors. Their inventions changed the way that people live every day. Thomas Alva Edison loved to read and to learn. He also loved to try to make new things. In 1969, he came up with his first big invention. He made improvements to a stock ticker machine used by the stock market. The invention earned him a lot of money. Edison decided to become a full-time inventor. During his lifetime, Edison and his team of workers came up with more than 1,000 inventions. He is the best known for inventing the first long-lasting electric light bulb. He also invented the phonograph. The first phonograph made recordings of people talking or singing. He invented the first movie camera, too. When you are up one night watching the movie or listening to music, think about Thomas Edison. So here's a picture of Thomas Alva Edison and a picture of George Washington Carver. And there we see a picture of Edison's stock ticker machine. So it sounds like these two guys were very busy. They worked to invent lots of things. So I've read about how inventors work to solve problems. When I reread paragraphs 3 and 4 about Thomas Edison, I can see how they were working to solve problems. Sometimes inventors solve problems with devices that don't work as well as they could work, like a light bulb that doesn't last very long. Inventing a light bulb would be great, but if it doesn't last very long, there's still a problem with it, isn't there? So he come up with the first long-lasting light bulb. That would be even better invention. So sometimes inventors work on improving other inventions to help make them better. Okay? Let's think about some of the problems that they solved in just this paragraph here. Okay? This one talks about the stock market, and he made improvements to the stock ticker machine. So there was already a machine there, but he made improvements to make it work better. Now, that was Thomas Edison. Let's keep going. It also says that Thomas Edison not only made the first long-lasting light bulb, but he invented a phonograph. And that would be like the recording your voice for different things. So that solves a problem that people had. Here's another one, the first movie camera. Think about not ever having a movie camera, okay? That was a problem. So they were able to watch movies now, and they are able to listen to music thanks to Thomas Edison. Let's continue to the next page. George Washington Carver. George Washington Carver was born an enslaved person in Missouri. Slavery ended a year later. As a boy, he loved to learn about plants. He went to college to study plants. Carver was the first black student at Ohio State Agricultural College. After college, Carver became a teacher. He taught students and farmers about plants. Most farmers in the southern United States grew cotton. Carver foresaw opportunities for farmers. He wanted them to grow other plants as well. He knew that they would help farmers make money. He knew it would be good for the soil too. Carver taught farmers how to grow peanut plants. He taught them how to grow sweet potato plants too. He invented hundreds of new ways to use peanuts and sweet potatoes. Because of Carver, farmers had better lives, and everyone benefited from his inventions. When I read here about George Washington Carver, I can think about some of the problems that might have been there. It doesn't tell me in the story that there were problems. Just like on this page, it did not tell me that when Thomas Edison was inventing all of these things, that there were problems. But I used what I know, and I used the details from the story to understand that if they're making something better, there had to have been problems. Or if they're inventing something to make their life easier, there had to be problems there. So I'm making an inference. I'm drawing an inference. I'm understanding that from this story, there were problems that people had in different areas. And these two men worked to solve those problems by either making an invention to make things work better or by inventing something new for the very first time to make life easier. Think about the things that George Washington Carver invented. It says that he he learned about plants. He went to college and studied plants, so he had a lot of knowledge about plants. So the knowledge that he had, he shared with other people, other farmers, and so that he could teach them more about plants and how to take care of them a little better. You know, if they can be more successful at growing plants or growing crops, then they will be able to produce more food. So he saw that there were opportunities for farmers and other plants, and he knew that they would be good for the soil. So he used all the knowledge he had from college to help the people around him. It says that he grew peanut plants and sweet potato plants, and he invented hundreds of new ways to use peanuts and sweet potatoes. So, because George Washington Carver and Thomas Edison were able to work and make these inventions, they were able to make people's lives easier. Let's keep reading. One last paragraph. Conclusion. Inventors create new things. They also work to solve problems. Some inventors, such as Edison and Carver, make things that change the way people live. So I'm thinking from this story that the things that Thomas Edison and George Washington Carver invented helped make people's lives easier, and it changed the way that they lived. If they're able to now have electricity with a light bulb, think about how that would change their life. They can stay up later at night. Maybe they would be able to do things better and more efficiently inside their homes because they can see with the light bulbs better. They could do more things outdoors because they would have lights that would shine. Think about the things that Carver invented. Look, there's soap and ink. Both of those things come from peanuts or sweet potatoes. It says right here that Carver invented many ways to make ink, soap, and hundreds of things from peanuts and sweet potatoes. Think about how that makes life easier. If you can use something that you have to make other things. So these two men are very smart and they were very helpful to our world. We think about making an inference, and when we make an inference, we're making a decision about what we have read, and we're using clues from the story and details that we already know to make a decision about what is happening. Remember, we said that authors don't always tell you everything. So, to make an inference means that you are deciding about something in the story without the author telling you. And so we come to the inference that there had to be some problems that inventors needed to solve. And these two men worked to solve those problems. Thanks for listening. We'll talk to you later. Bye.